In the hallowed halls of Westmore Academy, where affluence and arrogance danced hand in hand, a plot was afoot. The stage was set not for a celebration, but for a spectacle of cruelty. Marcus Johnson, a 16-year-old with skin as dark as the richest soil, stood alone under the harsh glare of spotlights, an island amidst a sea of pale faces and sneering grins. Here at this elite private school, where the air was thick with the scent of privilege, Marcus was an anomaly, a scholarship student from Oakland, the son of the legendary soul singer Vivian Johnson. Whispers of mockery filled the auditorium as Blake's shrill laughter cut through the silence. "Let's see the diva's son embarrass himself," he had taunted. The auditorium, a place where future leaders were supposedly nurtured, now brimmed with malicious anticipation. Principal Reynolds, with a smile that barely concealed his disdain, addressed the young man on stage. "The microphone is on, Mr. Johnson. Since you insisted on participating in the talent show, we're all eager to see what you've prepared." The audience snickered their laughter, a stark contrast to the solemnity of the occasion. Marcus had not volunteered for this. His name was a forgery on the sign-up sheet, a cruel jest orchestrated by Blake and his cronies. "Let's see if talent runs in the family," they had mocked in the hallways. Marcus had never sung in public, choosing instead to shun the limelight that followed his mother, Vivian Johnson, who had captured the world with her voice, winning 5 Grammys. Not out of embarrassment for her success, but from weariness of being just the famous singer's son. Since joining Westmore 6 months prior, Marcus had lived under this shadow, his identity eclipsed by his lineage, even as he poured every ounce of his being into his studies to prove his own merit. It was a peculiar oversight, or perhaps a deliberate ignorance that none seemed to remember. Vivian Johnson was black just like her son. Here in this bastion of supposed enlightenment, where the color of one's skin should have mattered less, the irony was as palpable as the tension in the room. The crowd's whispers grew to a crescendo, like the swelling of a symphony reaching its climax as Marcus stood, his heart a drumbeat in his chest, facing the expectant stares of his peers. When had it become so easy for them to ask for selfies or concert tickets from him, yet so effortless to use his skin color as a punchline in their so-called friendly jesting? "We're waiting, Marcus." Principal Reynolds pressed her fingers, tapping out an impatient rhythm on the podium. "Or will you give up?" The stairs beneath him felt like a mountain, each step laden with the heavy expectation of his failure. He could almost taste the anticipation of his downfall, as palpable as the air around him. From the back, Blake and his cronies wielded their phones like weapons poised to capture his moment of shame, eager to immortalize it in the digital realm as the next viral sensation. "I don't have anything prepared," Marcus confessed, his voice a whisper of defiance amidst the silence. "What a pity." Principal Reynolds sighed, her words dripping with theatrical disappointment. "Perhaps another time." "Another. But I can make something up," Marcus added, his resolve hardening like steel. The auditorium quieted the silence, a heavy blanket draped over the crowd. Mrs. Rivera, seated in the front, her expression a canvas of unreadable emotions, had seen Marcus in a different light just days ago. She had stumbled upon him in the music room alone, with his thoughts and a history book, his soft humming, a melody only he knew. He hadn't noticed her until the rustle of falling sheet music betrayed her presence. "You don't have to do this," she whispered, now her voice a gentle reminder of the sanctuary she had offered him in that quiet room. Marcus inhaled deeply, the air filling his lungs with a mix of fear and fire. There were two paths before him: retreat in defeat or reveal a part of his soul he had always guarded. His eyes closed, feeling not just the burn of anger, but a spark of quiet determination. Yes, he knew this feeling, so. "Surely I'm going to sing something my mom wrote," he declared, his voice steady, surprising even himself. His mother's song, unrecorded, unpublished, was a treasure he had kept locked away. Now it would be his shield, his sword in this moment of reckoning. An astonished hush swept through the auditorium, a ripple of intrigue even among the most hardened of hearts. Here was something worth sharing, an unreleased song by Vivian Johnson, the very one that whispered secrets of resilience and beauty. What none of the Westmore Academy crowd knew was the humble origin story of Vivian. Before the world knew her as a star, before the accolades of the Grammys and the roar of sold-out arenas, she was simply a mother, her voice a lullaby to her son in their modest Oakland apartment. Marcus had grown up not just hearing her voice, but absorbing its lessons. As he adjusted the microphone, his gaze locked with Blake's, whose mocking smile still lingered. Yet there was something in Marcus's serene, resolute stare that caused the bully's smirk to waver, if only for a moment. What are the roots that clutch the branches that grow from this? What if the story of prejudice and public shaming has stirred something within you? Johnson, you waiting for your mommy to sing for you? Blake taunted, eliciting another wave of cruel laughter. Marcus closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and when he spoke, his voice was a soft whisper into the microphone. "This song is called Invisible Roots," he announced, and then he sang. The initial note trembled, finding its strength almost immediately. It was a soulful ballad infused with jazz, a song that called for not just vocal mastery, but emotional depth. Marcus's voice, defying all expectations, was not merely in tune. It was remarkable, deep and rich, with a timbre that seemed too mature for his years. In the third row, Blake blinked in confusion. This was not part of the plan. The intended humiliation was morphing into something entirely unexpected. Marcus sang of roots growing beneath the surface, of invisible connections of strength drawn from the unseen. His voice painted a picture of resilience, of a quiet power that had been underestimated, waiting for the moment to bloom. In the rich tapestry of his performance, Marcus wove a tale of legacy, of carrying the weight of his ancestors' history in his very veins, of remaining unbroken in a world that sought to fracture him. Each syllable, each melodic note seemed to peel back layers of a persona painstakingly built. In the front row, Mrs. Rivera, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, watched a spectacle unfold. She had seen something extraordinary in that music room just a week ago, a raw talent honed by years of relentless practice. When the sheet music fluttered to the floor, she had asked him, her voice gentle, yet probing, why when he concealed such a voice. "Because I don't want to be just a kid singing his mom's songs." Marcus had shrugged, his voice tinged with a mix of defiance and vulnerability. "And I don't want to be the diversity project, the token singer. I want respect for who I am, not just for my heritage or the hue of my skin." Rivera, a Latina pianist who had traded the stage for the classroom, understood all too well the burden of labels and the shackles of expectations. "But to deny your talent," she had said, then her words echoing with wisdom, "is to deny a part of your essence." Now, as Marcus's voice filled the auditorium, Rivera realized with a swelling heart that he had finally grasped that lesson. Yet in that moment of revelation, she caught sight of Blake, slipping away with a whisper and a smirk, flanked by two cronies. The song entered a brief interlude, and Marcus opened his eyes. Some students had ceased their filming, their devices forgotten in the face of true artistry. Others wore expressions of genuine awe. Principal Reynolds, her face a mask of recalculation, seemed to reassess her initial judgments about the charity project. Then the sabotage commenced. The stage lights flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows. From the sound system, a piercing feedback screeched, slicing through the air. Someone had tampered with the technical booth. Marcus faltered, a note missed, but he did not falter in spirit. When the sound steadied, a heavy, discordant electronic beat clashed against his melody, a stark reminder of the resistance he faced. As the PA system crackled to life, Blake's friends were clearly up to their old tricks, attempting to turn Marcus's performance into a spectacle of ridicule. The audience, a sea of confused faces, watched the stage, some chuckling, under the impression that the disruption was part of the act. Whispers spread like wildfire as others caught on to the sabotage. Principal Reynolds rose poised to intervene, but fate had other plans. In a moment that felt like magic, Marcus, with a voice that resonated with newfound purpose, adapted. Rather than battling the intrusive electronic beat, he embraced it, weaving it into the fabric of his song, transforming chaos into a symphony. His mother's lessons, those countless hours of watching her turn mishaps into miracles at rehearsals and concerts, had paid off. The look of gleeful malice on Blake and his friends' faces melted into dismay. The audience, once on the brink of witnessing a fiasco, now found themselves swept up in a whirlwind of musical brilliance. Students began to sway their phones aloft their flashlights, casting a concert-like glow across the auditorium. The song, now a living entity, transcended its origins of intended humiliation. When the last note faded, a heartbeat of silence gripped the room, then erupted into an ovation. This was no ordinary applause. It was heartfelt, spontaneous, and filled with awe. Thomas, a young man of privilege and usually a staunch supporter of Blake, was the first to leap to his feet, igniting a standing ovation that spread like wildfire. Blake, however, remained anchored to his seat, his arms folded, his face a mask of bitterness. His eyes, however, spoke volumes. This isn't over. Backstage, amidst the echoes of applause, Mrs. Rivera approached Marcus, whose hands still trembled from the rush of adrenaline. "You knew they would try something like this, didn't you?" she whispered. Marcus, with a slight nod, confirmed what they both knew. Blake had boasted about his surprise, and Marcus was ready. "Oh, the song. It wasn't just any tune I strummed on stage. It was a melody woven by my mother's own hands, a piece that allowed me to bend and twist, to dance with the music as I saw fit. And you, Rivera, with your keen ear, navigated through the chaos like a seasoned sailor through stormy seas. Admiration laced your voice as you spoke. They completely underestimated you." A wry smile tugged at Marcus's lips. "They always do." But why perform knowing the trap was set? Rivera's curiosity was palpable, her eyes searching for an answer in the depth of his. Marcus paused, the weight of his decision hanging in the air, like the final note of a symphony. "Not exactly to prove a point," he confessed. "Singing wasn't part of the plan, but last night, after the shock of the forged application, an email arrived. An email from Berklee College of Music in Boston. A scholarship for extraordinary talent." He continued, his voice a mix of disbelief and awe. "Your mother sent them a recording of you without your knowledge." Rivera's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Yes, and they want a live performance. An audition next week." Marcus's hand swept over his face as if to wipe away the disbelief. "Can you believe she never told me she thought I was that good? Sometimes parents see things in us we can't see ourselves." Rivera said, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. The moment was shattered by the arrival of a group of students, their voices a cacophony of excitement and praise, all eager to bask in Marcus's unexpected triumph. Amidst the chatter, Blake lurked at the doorway, his gaze icy, his fingers dancing across his phone screen. "Enjoy the moment," he whispered as he passed Marcus, his voice dripping with a chilling promise. "I've made sure it will be brief." A shiver ran down Marcus's spine. Blake's tone, laced with a disturbing confidence, hinted at something far more sinister than mere technical sabotage. That night, as Marcus made his way back to the dorm, the darkness seemed to whisper secrets of its own. As Marcus settled into the quiet sanctuary of his campus dorm room, his phone erupted with a cacophony of notifications. Someone had posted a video of his performance on the university's social media platform. But it wasn't just any video. It was accompanied by a torrent of comments that plunged his heart into despair. The first comment from an anonymous account was a cruel whisper in the digital winds. "Discover the hidden truths about Marcus Johnson's talent and why his mother, Vivian Johnson, shields him from the spotlight." Link in the comments. This was just the beginning of his torment. By morning, Marcus's phone was a relentless buzz of activity, messages, comments, shares. The video, maliciously edited by Blake, wasn't merely a showcase of Marcus's performance. It was a venomous montage juxtaposing his singing with outdated clips of his mother, Vivian Johnson, insidiously implying that Marcus was merely an echo of her, devoid of any original talent. The caption, dripping with malice, read, "Exclusive, why does diva Vivian Johnson keep her son off the stage? Sources reveal he was rejected by every record label for lack of originality. Sad. hatch fake talent, hash charity project. His stomach plummeted as if on a broken elevator. It wasn't the first time he'd been the target of disdain, but never had it been so public, so cruel. Ignoring the incessant calls from his mother, her voice finally broke through when he answered. Vivian Johnson, an international icon, a whirlwind of a single mother, but above all, a fierce protector against injustice. Her voice was tight with anger. I just saw that filth they posted. I'm catching the first flight home. Mom, no, Marcus protested, his voice cracking. That'll just fuel Blake's fire. He'll turn this into a spectacle. A heavy silence enveloped the line before Vivian spoke again, her tone softening with understanding. You're right, it's your story to tell, but let me help you in other ways. In the dim light of his dorm, Marcus lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. Beside him, Eli, his roommate from Chicago, usually as silent as the room itself, suddenly spoke up, offering an unexpected kindness in this storm of public scorn. Eli, his gaze still fixed on the laptop screen, muttered almost to himself. My dad's a defamation lawyer, and I've picked up a thing or two about digital footprints. Marcus, looking at him with a mix of confusion and curiosity, asked, Since when do you care? Eli's eyes met Marcus's, a spark of resolve in them. Since I heard you sing yesterday, since I saw what they did to you afterward. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. Meanwhile, in the sanctuary of the music room, Mrs. Rivera was waging her own quiet war. As the advisor to the student newspaper, she had access to invaluable resources. Look at this, she urged, her voice a mix of excitement and urgency as she displayed a folder on her computer screen. I've been recording the student council meetings for the past 3 years for transcription purposes. Guess who's been the star of these recordings? Blake's voice, clear and incriminating, discussed how he manipulated the disciplinary committee, altered grades, and even orchestrated previous instances of bullying against scholarship students. It was an unwitting confession of a systematic pattern of abuse. Marcus hesitated, the weight of the revelation sinking in. This is, he started, but Mrs. Rivera finished for him, her voice firm, pure gold. We just need the right moment. The moment arrived sooner than anticipated. Blake, intoxicated by the apparent success of his digital smear campaign, called an emergency meeting of the student council, which he presided over to address the so-called issue of artistic integrity in the talent show. Unbeknownst to him, Marcus had received a heads-up from Thomas, the brave soul who had first stood to applaud. In the vast auditorium under the shadow of the school's crest, the council and administration gathered. Blake, dressed in a tailored blazer, exuded confidence, basking in Principal Reynolds' admiring gaze. We have evidence that certain participants have employed inappropriate technical aids to enhance their performances artificially. Blake declared, his eyes slicing through the room to land on Marcus, who sat quietly at the back. Just then the auditorium doors swung open. The collective breath of the room was held, expecting Vivian Johnson, but instead it was Richard Torres, a middle-aged black man with an air of quiet elegance, stepped into the room, his suit simple yet exuding a sense of sophistication. He was not just any man, he was a multiple Grammy award-winning music producer and Marcus's godfather. I hope I'm not interrupting, Torres's voice boomed, accustomed to the commanding presence required in recording studios. I was invited by Mrs. Rivera to explore the possibilities for a partnership with Westmore's music program. Blake blinked, his mind reeling. This wasn't the confrontation he had braced himself for. Mr. Torres, Principal Reynolds exclaimed, rising promptly from his seat, his voice laced with genuine surprise. What an unexpected honor. The honor is mine, Torres replied, his steps measured as he walked down the center aisle. Especially after watching that video which has been circulating. I was utterly impressed by this young man's talent. The principal furrowed his brow, puzzled. Video. Rivera, with a knowing look, turned on the projector. The screen flickered to life, not with the defamatory montage of Blake, but with the original, unedited performance of Marcus, capturing the moment when the lights flashed and the electronic beat thundered through the auditorium. As a producer who has worked with talent for over 2 decades, Torres continued, his voice filled with admiration. I recognize raw talent when I see it. But what truly caught my eye was this. The image on the screen shifted. It now revealed Blake and his friends, their faces set in determination, storming the technical booth. Their actions, tampering with the equipment during Marcus's performance, were unmistakable. Security cameras, Rivera explained softly to the stunned director, installed after last year's vandalism incident. That's taken out of context, Blake protested, his voice shaking. And so is this, Torres interjected, his tone sharp as the screen changed once more. Screenshots of Blake's messages appeared plotting not only the sabotage of the show, but also a smear campaign. Let's take down the black kid before anyone finds out he's better than us, one message chillingly read. The auditorium fell into a silence so deep it was almost deafening. How did this? Blake stammered, his eyes searching the principal's face for any sign of support. Your friend Thomas felt he needed to clear his conscience. Marcus explained, his voice steady, bearing the weight of truth. With a heavy heart and a voice that trembled slightly, Principal Reynolds finally broke the silence, her face etched with lines of worry and resolve as she handed over the incriminating evidence to Eli and Ms. Rivera the previous night. Blake, to my office now, she commanded, her voice echoing with a mixture of authority and despair. Blake, defeated and disheveled, staggered out, leaving behind a room thick with tension. As the door closed with a thud, Torres turned to Marcus, a sly smile creeping across his face. So you never told them, did you? He inquired, the question hanging in the air, like a melody waiting to be sung. Marcus shook his head, a small, enigmatic smile playing on his lips. Told them what? Rivera's voice was sharp with curiosity. With a broader, more triumphant smile, Torres revealed that besides being the godson of a producer, Marcus recorded an entire album in my studio last year. An album that's scheduled for release next month. The room gasped, shock and realization washing over the faces like a sudden downpour. Marcus confirmed it with a calm nod. I didn't want anyone to know, he admitted. I wanted to stand on my own merits, not ride on my mother's name or connections. He paused, his gaze drifting toward the door where Blake had just exited in disgrace. But now I think it's time for my music to be heard. What was intended as Blake's final act of humiliation had instead unveiled a talent poised to captivate the world. No longer would Marcus be known merely as Vivian Johnson's son, but as Marcus Johnson, an artist in his own right. By that evening, 2 videos had begun their viral journey across the internet, one capturing Marcus's breathtaking performance, the other Blake's ignominious departure from campus, his humiliation now etched into the digital annals for millions to see. Isn't it poetic how the cruelest of jests can lead to the most unexpected and perhaps just outcomes? The following Monday, the Westmore Academy campus wore a different air. Notices for a special assembly adorned every bulletin board, and the school's social media accounts solemnly announced amendments to the Code of Conduct and anti-discrimination policies. In less than 3 days, the scandal involving Blake had reshaped the very fabric of the institution. Marcus, ever the artist, arrived discreetly through the back, his presence a whisper in the new dawn of justice and recognition that was breaking over Westmore Academy. As they navigated the throng of curious onlookers and persistent reporters at the main entrance, Eli turned to Marcus, his voice a mix of admiration and curiosity. How does it feel to be the one who has shone a light on decades of concealed institutional racism? He inquired, their footsteps echoing in the quiet hallways leading to their first class. Marcus, his face a mask of calm, shrugged off his backpack with the air of someone craving the sanctuary of a normal school day. Inside the principal's office, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Principal Reynolds, now the subject of a school board investigation for gross negligence, sat nervously, his eyes darting between the stern faces of the disciplinary committee members. A newly appointed consultant tasked with navigating the school through this crisis spoke with gravity. The Blake Hammond case is merely the tip of the iceberg, he declared, his voice resonating with the weight of the truth. The recordings Ms. Rivera provided expose a disturbing pattern of favoritism and protectionism. Meanwhile, the world outside Westmore Academy was crumbling for Blake. His once celebrated early admission to Harvard was rescinded, and three other prestigious universities had second thoughts about their offers. His father, a figure of corporate prominence, now faced tough inquiries from shareholders about the family's values and their role in societal responsibility. Blake's life in tatters was last seen departing his parents' mansion with two suitcases destined for a military school in Arizona. His Instagram, previously a gallery of luxury and exclusivity, vanished under a deluge of harsh criticism. Back at Richard Torres' studio, the air was alive with the hum of creativity. Marcus, ensconced in a plush leather swivel chair, listened intently to the final mixes of his album, Invisible Roots. Torres, his mentor, looked at him with newfound respect. "I always sensed you had something unique, Marcus," he said, tweaking the sound levels. "But what you've experienced at that school, it's added layers of depth to your music that were just whispers before." Marcus smiled faintly, the trials of the past months etched into his expression. His phone buzzed with a message from his mother, Vivian, who was finally wrapping up her global tour. "Proud doesn't even start to cover it. I'll be there tomorrow. The halls of Westmore Academy had transformed. No longer were they the echo chambers of scorn and derision. Instead, a new era of respect, perhaps even admiration, filled the quarters. Marcus, upon his return, noticed the shift immediately. Where once there was only the shadow of mockery, now there was light, and it shone from the eyes of those who had once been his silent detractors. Thomas, once a confidant to Blake, the architect of Marcus's previous torment, now extended a hand of friendship. "Hey, Marcus," he called out, his voice tinged with a newfound warmth. Others who had previously stood by complicit in their silence now sought redemption through small acts of inclusion, their gestures tentative yet sincere. The administrative shift was palpable too. Principal Reynolds, with his outdated views, had been replaced by Vice Principal de Garcia, a beacon of progress. Garcia's first act was to introduce a program aimed at understanding privilege and diversity, a move that resonated deeply within the school's walls. And Ms. Rivera, with her unyielding support for Marcus, found herself elevated to head of the art department, a testament to her belief in the transformative power of art. "Isn't it poetic justice?" Marcus mused during a session with Ms. Rivera. Blake had intended to reduce him to merely the offspring of a famous singer. Yet in doing so, he inadvertently liberated Marcus from that very label. The release of Invisible Roots was not marked by pomp or circumstance, but by the quiet gathering of souls at Torres' studio. Vivian Johnson, Marcus's mother, watched from a corner, her pride as palpable as the spring air. "This album," Marcus announced to the intimate crowd, "was born from the necessity to be seen beyond labels. When we sing, we transcend our color, our family, our past. We become the truth we pour into every note." The reviews were a chorus of acclaim. Marcus Johnson was no longer just Vivian Johnson's son. He was an artist, his voice a beacon of authenticity and power. 3 months post-release, the album garnered 2 Grammy nominations, including Best New Artist. In a reflective interview with Rolling Stone, when asked about Blake, Marcus's response was thoughtful, his words carrying the weight of his journey. "He tried to define me, but instead he helped me redefine myself." When the incident erupted at school, Marcus faced the storm with an unexpected calm, his demeanor leaving the interviewer utterly astonished. "I don't thank him for the prejudice or the humiliation," Marcus declared, his voice firm, yet imbued with a surprising grace. "No one should ever endure such trials, but I am grateful for the chance to confront the fear that shackled me from embracing my true self." Blake, in his misguided ambition, aimed to show Marcus his supposed place, and in a twist of fate, he did just that. However, the place Marcus found was not the one Blake had envisioned. The transformation of Westmore Academy's talent show into an annual festival of diversity, officially dubbed Festival Raise, in homage to the song Marcus sang on that fateful day, marked a new chapter. This event swiftly rose to prominence, becoming the most celebrated among regional schools, drawing talents from all corners of the country. 3 years later, at his graduation performance, Marcus Johnson returned to the Westmore Academy stage, not as a target of scorn, but as a revered guest. The irony of his return was palpable. The stage that once threatened to be his public undoing now celebrated him as a legend. Before his final song, Marcus offered a poignant reflection. We all encounter moments when others attempt to define us to limit what we believe we can achieve. He mused, his words resonating deeply. In these moments, we are given a choice: accept their definition or assert our own truth. And when that truth is discovered, it holds a power that no prejudice can mute. Isn't it astonishing how from the darkest corners the brightest lights emerge? How does one find the strength to rise above the shadows cast by others' judgments? Marcus Johnson's journey reminds us that the greatest victories often spring from the most challenging adversities. His story is not merely about talent overcoming prejudice. It's about the profound realization that when we assert our true selves, we unlock a force that no external force can suppress. Oh, to truly grasp our own value and understanding that no other soul can dictate. Thank you, dear viewers, for accompanying us on this journey of self-discovery. Your presence here is a testament to our shared quest for meaning. We implore you, please leave your thoughts below. Let us know how this resonates with you, and if this message has stirred your heart, like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt explorations. Together, we can redefine our worth